Hello, social media land worldwide, IT Nation. It's very exciting. I'm Peter Kujawa. I'm VP and GM of Service Leadership, which is a ConnectWise solution. And joining me here today is Joddey Hicks, who is the Sales Director for IT Nation and works heavily in our peer group communities. Hello, Joddey. How are you
Peter, how's it going?
Going great, going great. So before we get going, we're going to be talking today about the power of peer groups and the impact joining a peer group has on profitability and why, and specifically. And so we'll get to that in a minute. Before we do have a promotion for our audience today. Service Leadership just released in the last couple of weeks our 2024 annual profitability report for the industry. Turned out remarkably. It's about 350 pages. You don't have to read all of it. There's sections that are specifically there for MSPs, specific to VARs, etc. We have 7 different business models in the report, but we do have a lot of great information in there. We have special sections on hyper-automation and best practices for gaining efficiency in your business through hyper-automation. We have some regional data in there, a whole section on data differences between Australia, New Zealand, Europe, UK, and the US, North America, more specifically. And a really interesting section about the correlation of profitability and customer satisfaction, specifically Net Promoter Score. So the report is normally $2,000 US. It is available for 30% off. The QR code is here for you. And so take advantage of it. You won't be disappointed. The amount of data in it will blow you away. You'll come away with a lot of practical knowledge on how to improve your profitability. Okay.
350 pages.
Light bedtime reading for everybody.
It would take me 350 days. I'd read one page, and that's
it. Might. It's heavy on content, but the key is you don't need to read the whole thing. Go to the sections that are relevant to your specific business model. Focus on those, and you'll still get plenty out of it. It'll more than cover the cost of the report and change how you're doing things in your MSP or VAR, etc.
So it always amazes me how much information is in that report. All the reports, Service Leadership, but Peter, you guys do an incredible job over there. Mining that data and presenting it, and it's incredible. If the people online have not seen these reports, it says there you get a complimentary copy of the executive summary. Also, I think once they would review that, they would see the quality, the content of the data, and well worth the investment of getting that.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of our 2 annual reports. In March every year, we come out with an annual report covering compensation for about 60 positions that are common in the industry, and that we're doing that annually. It's been really well received. This is our other big one. This really focuses in on profitability trends and what's going on in the industry, and just generally things that we find interesting right now. So we write the report so we get to determine what we find interesting. Really an awesome position to be in. So with that, why don't we talk about peer groups and get going on that discussion.
I do love to discuss peer groups, Peter. Just high level, I've been with the peer group since the beginning. They came out of Y2K, and I've seen them grow and change. And one of the biggest things is the joining Service Leadership, being acquired by ConnectWise, and then Service Leadership coming under the mothership also, and again the access to all that data and understanding and deeper dives than we would be able to do as involved by yourself. But Peter, to begin with, I think like I said, I've been around it for 24 years, but I think, Peter, you have an interesting background of being at Service Leadership now, but previous to that, I believe you were a member of the Service Leadership peer groups, if I remember correctly.
You remember correctly. I took over an MSP back in 2010, and I didn't own it. I was brought in as president to try to fix it. The owner was independently wealthy, had sold a couple of businesses over the years, a software company, and then believe it or not, a ceramic, softball, and baseball bat company. But he had done really well, entrepreneur, and again, was independently wealthy. But but the MSP was making him less independently wealthy the longer he owned it. It was losing a bunch of money. I mean, the business in the prior year had done 2.2 million of revenue and lost about $1.5 million. So I was brought in to fix it, and came from outside the IT industry. And it's a tough industry. I mean, it's running an MSP or a VAR is a challenging business. And there's a lot that goes into it every day to deliver your services to your customers, to deliver product and projects, employees, staffing, recruiting, retention. All of those things are really tough. And then you mix in trying to do it in a way that you're making money. And it's so it was tough. It was a tough business back then. We were all learning what would work, and managed services was really a new thing. And so we did our best to turn it around, and we were doing better. About 8-9 months later, we were on track to lose about 500,000, not $1.5 million. So the good news is
that's a win.
$1 million better a year, but the bad news is that's still on track to lose money. And I was getting really frustrated. I was really frustrated in the business model and the ability to make money, and just in general, operating the business. And even though we were growing, we were adding seemingly good customers, we just couldn't figure out how to make money and turn this thing into the kind of profitable businesses that I'd run in the past. And around that time, I met Arlen at a CompTIA event. And Arlen introduced me to Paul Dipple, because at that time we did not have ConnectWise products, and that was a requirement to be an HTG back in the day, 13 years ago. And so I met Paul Dipple and got introduced to service leadership and service leadership peer groups. We started to benchmark. We joined a group the next quarter. We started to benchmark. We went to our first quarterly meeting and got our first report on our profitability. And it was almost instant how fast we were able to make changes in the business. We made changes on how we did our pricing and packaging on managed services. We made changes on our product gross margin targets. We made a lot of changes in the business over the next 6 to 12 months. And it worked because of the peer groups and because of benchmarking. We were able to turn the thing around and be successfully acquired. We went on to grow the business. We were acquired in 2012 with 32 employees. When I left in 2021, I think we had about 85 employees.
Oh, wow.
Had grown to 17 million of revenue. Business continues to do great that I used to run. And I attribute a huge amount of it to the power of benchmarking and the power of community, the power of our peer group. So we went on to stay in a peer group for the rest of my time there. And I'm almost a religious level believer in the transformative impact of this because I lived it.
Well, yeah, and it's not feeling like the full pressure of running the organization is sitting on your shoulders. You know, there are other people that the peer group gets you around people in MSPs or TSPs, if you want to say that, the technology solution providers, because service leadership does have a fair amount of VARs that are involved in their peer groups. And not feeling like you're on an island all by yourself and you got to come up with all these answers. There are other people going through the same things in the trenches day after day. And it makes it not that you have to, all decide the same way and decide this is the direction we're going to go, but at least have intelligent conversation with people that are dealing with the same things. And then you can make your decision based upon that input. And saying that, with the operational maturity levels and the SLEEK tool that's included in the peer groups, along with the benchmarking index, service leadership benchmarking index, the amount of data along with the community or the other people that are sitting around the table. I mean, it really helps these companies, these people running these companies, get a better understanding of what they should be doing.
Yeah, it's you bring up a good bunch of good points, Jody. So if somebody's watching this wondering, what do you do at a peer group meeting? What do you, when you talk about peer groups, what are you talking about? Well, specifically what we're talking about are the groups that are under the IT Nation banner and IT Nation Evolve banner. And so that includes all of the evolve groups, which are different size targeted groups. And but the largest community is your Evolve 3 community, which is internationally now up to about 500 companies or so.
Somewhere right around there, yes.
And then service leadership also has peer groups that are now administered under Evolve. We still provide the content, and they're a little bit different format, but the common aspect is these groups come together every quarter. And depending on the group, some of those groups are virtual. Most of them are in person, and most of them are for 2 days. So you get together for a day and a half or 2 days. Some groups have a third day optional add-on with additional content called Community Day. But you get together in those groups, and you're in a group that's going to typically be somewhere between 8 to 12 companies. And as much as possible, those companies don't compete with each other. They're in different geos, and they're typically around the same size of companies in terms of revenue, same business model typically. So you have MSPs with MSPs and VARs with VARs typically. And you get together, and every group now, when they're meeting, is going to talk about benchmarking, because they all benchmark through service leadership. We benchmark multiple peer group communities worldwide, and our largest certainly is the Evolve community. But everybody in those groups is going to benchmark, and they're going to be able to see each other's data. So they get to see how each other did in the previous quarter. And when they get together and discuss it in person, that leads to a lot of coaching that they can do of each other to help each other improve. It leads to a lot of accountability, that if a member is showing up every quarter and they're struggling on profitability and they're committing to do certain things and they're not doing those things, they're going to hear about it. I can tell you personally, I dreaded going to a meeting where last quarter I had committed to doing something, and I knew going to this meeting that it was going to show up in the data that I did not do it. And that was not fun. I hated doing that. On the other hand, I loved going to meetings when I could show some operational maturity level improvement, or I could show some improvement in profitability because we had taken action. And so it works really both ways to help you and encourage you to get better. But everybody who's in one of these groups is going to be benchmarking. And everybody is going to be using Sleek, which is our operational maturity level tool that helps evaluate your OML, and it helps you coach you for improvement. And so you go to these meetings for a couple of days, and you review financials and go through that. You talk about what's going on in your business, and you're able to get some advice and input on that. You can talk about major issues that maybe affect others that are going on in the marketplace, and find out, hey, is anybody else dealing with this too? And then you also will talk about Sleek and how you're that we'll cover one of the traits in those meetings, and look at how everybody's doing on that. So how's everybody doing, and how they do QBRs, for example, or how they do project execution, and all sorts of different areas of the business. And then we'll introduce a new trait and teach about it. And then there's going to be other things that are going to be covered that are going to depend on the group. Some of the groups are going to talk about legacy planning and get into some of that aspects. Other groups are going to cover some other aspects. So it's really designed as a 2-day, really intense get together. And the side benefit of it is that you're going to bond with and build relationships with others in the industry. And some of those relationships those are going to be for the rest of your life. You're going to really get close with others in your groups, because you're all in the trenches together. Everybody's everybody's fighting the same battles and helping each other out. It's really incredible to be part of.
Well, and you mentioned something, and I wrote it down, and building out of those relationships. And like you said in your meeting too, that accountability goes to the next level. I mean, it is truly, everyone is trying to help each other improve their organizations, because they know that they're being helped also. If you ask, most of our members out there, I wouldn't say it's 100%, but a large number, one of the top reasons, well, the top reason most people get involved in the peer groups is for the benchmarking, the sleep, that data side of it. It's hard to find that. And then even if you can find that out there, seeing it compared to people that you know how they run their organization, that's invaluable. And so that's the top reason. Second thing is the accountability. It's, like you said, you dread it, but you deserve to go to that meeting and kind of get in trouble because you didn't follow through and do the goals, or follow through on what you said you were going to be doing for that quarter. Because a lot of people in the MSP world, and I throw myself into this a little bit also, we come from that technical background. 1984, I bought my first TRS-80, and I was programming in BASIC, and so while I never got into the deep side of it, I do enjoy that, and we have a lot of the people on that side. They don't understand the financial or the sales or maybe some of those areas, and as you bring the accountability in, it says, okay, we know you like this and you like blinky lights because we're all technical here, and we get distracted by that stuff. But you also have to focus. What are your financials looking like? What's EBITDA? What's your adjusted EBITDA? What's your gross margin? How are you going to fix these things? And if we rely upon ourselves to do that, we always fall back to doing what we enjoy doing. And so that's difficult. But if you have people that are going to kind of hold your feet to the fire and say, hey, you were going to hire that salesperson, or whatever the case may be, and that you're gonna get kind of taken to task at the next meeting if you don't follow through, really helps you to stay focused on what you need to do to increase your operational maturity levels and really improve the workings of your MSP.
Yeah, there's one of the things that if you've never run a business before, that is hard to understand is how lonely it can be sometimes. When you're the owner or CEO or president, buck stops with you, and it can be really lonely at the business. You don't have a shoulder to cry on. You've got to figure things out sometimes in a way that it can be really difficult to do. And so tapping into a community like this and being able to go, spend time with people who are in the same position, and then B, just get that kind of input. It really helps that loneliness aspect. And it's remarkable. I come from other industries. I've never seen anything like the peer group community that you have within IT Nation. It's unbelievable. I remember the first time the concept was being explained to me, and I'm like, you mean they're gonna know my financial?
Exactly.
What do you mean? You mean at a high level, like growth percentages? Like, no, they're gonna be able to see everything, how you're doing on profit and everything. Like, okay, wait a second. This makes no sense to me. I'm coming from industries where nobody worked together. Everybody was ultra competitive all the time, and you're always afraid of your secret sauce getting out there. And so coming into this industry, it's one of the really awesome things that the MSP community and VAR community brings to the table under IT Nation. Every quarter when I go into these meetings, it's really remarkable to witness. It's a lot of fun too.
I think the vision that that Arnie and Paul Dipple and Arlen Sorensen, Arnie Bellini, the founder of ConnectWise, the vision that they had, and I mean, going all the way back 24 years, or it took a while to get there, but now that you're seeing how everything's fitting together, it's incredible what they created and how each piece kind of fit together. Again, we can look back and it's 2020, but how it all fit together so well and works together. And it's like you said, it creates an environment and a community that is second to none. At least I'm not aware of anything out there that's similar to it.
No, nothing at the scale. It's the largest community of its kind anywhere in the world. And yeah, I've never seen anything like it. And when you step back to think about it, I've talked a lot when I've presented about how important it is that our community overall deliver great results to clients and be sound businesses that are not insolvent and all of these things. And it's really important. I mean, I, don't get me wrong. I used to love it when one of my competitors would screw up and we'd pick up an account because of that, right? But at the same time, we need, and we as suppliers to the MSP and VAR industry, but also MSPs and VARs delivering the services, it's really important that in general our community is doing things in the right way and delivering great results to clients. Because if we're not, clients are going to quickly stop outsourcing. And we compete. We certainly, every MSP out there has competitors, local and regional competitors. Every VAR does as well. But you're also competing against, from a services business standpoint, you're competing against not outsourcing, right? At the end of the day, a business has the choice whether to try to staff internally and do things internally or whether to outsource. And so it's really important for our community to do things right and deliver great results. And in general, operate at a high operational maturity level. All these things, it'll help the community continue to grow. We're in the middle of the best 4-year run ever for the industry. The VARs have seen continuous improvement for 7 straight years.
That's incredible.
We're just in this unbelievable time. But a big part of it is because of us continuing to improve and companies getting better because of the power of the peer groups.
No, I completely agree with that. And when I was at it was before an MSP, but a tech provider, I never felt bad losing to a worthy competitor. There's enough business out there. You can have frenemies or whatever terminology you want to use. But at the end of the day, if you're losing to a worthy competitor, you know that customer is going to be taken care of. I didn't like losing to what I called Johnny Trunk Slammer, because you knew you were going to have to come in 6 months later, clean up everything probably that they had done improperly, and then make the customer mad because they're going to have to spend a lot more money than the original quote that you gave them. But you have this environment, and then you have the security and the AI and the automation, all of these other things. Like you said, Peter, I can only see that this is going to continue to increase, because as a typical, customer of MSP services, your accounting firm or your law firm or anything like that, there's no way that they're going to stay on top of this as long as we continue to run the industry in a high value sort of way.
Yeah, and it's a lot of fun. We go into the groups every quarter. Myself, my colleagues Rob Bufano and Aaron Boone and I, and spend a lot of time face-to-face with MSPs. And every quarter, we're personally in front of, in person, 250, 300 MSPs and VARs every quarter. And it's so much fun when you're talking to a business owner, president, CEO, etc., who has made fundamental improvement in their business, and they've done it because of the peer groups and the knowledge that they've gained. I had a conversation in May. We had peer groups, service leadership peer groups in Nashville. And one of our group members just showed unbelievable improvement in their EBITDA going back to Q3 of last year to Q1 of this year. And I talked to him after the first day. We were having a discussion over an adult beverage, and I said, "How did you do it? I mean, I've seen improvement, but I think these guys jumped from 12 or 13% adjusted EBITDA, which is soundly median, up into best in class. They were up over 20%. And they did it in Q1 after, again, being down in that low or that 12, 13% range in Q3. And he said, Peter, we came to the November meeting, the Q4 meetings in Orlando. We looked at the data. We've been coming quarter after quarter and seeing others in our group doing better and seeing the data showing us where we weren't doing things right. And we finally got sick of it. And in November, we came to the meeting, we left the meeting, we went back and we busted our butts for the next 5 weeks in November and all of December, made a bunch of decisions on some employees who are not getting the job done, changed pricing, looked at our customer profitability, the whole thing, top to bottom, looked at the business. And he said, we came into January and we were just way better prepared for the next quarter. And we blew it out, had a great quarter. And he said, by the way, once we made all those changes, it was a lot easier to run the business too. And said it was because of the awareness that they had from their peer group meeting.
Well, and having that data to back everything up. I remember back in the day with HTG where you'd come to your meeting and it was like, well, you just talked. I mean, there wasn't that backup of the data. And then we started integrating with service leadership. Well, you might think you have a great company, but that's not what your financials say. Okay. So we're going to be honest here and review this and compare with each other. And it makes that discussion so much more real and honest when you see those financial data behind it.
Well, yeah. And it's really important in a group dynamic too, because we've often observed an inverse correlation between who talks the most and the loudest in the group and performance of the company. And so it's important that everybody in the group knows who's doing well in what areas of the business and can learn from those individuals, et cetera. I would also add, I know we're going to be coming up against the clock. One thing that I think is really important for anybody who is thinking about groups, one of the common objections I hear, well, two of them. One is we're too small. We'll get to it later. And you guys have different size entry points for different group types. I would tell any MSP out there, don't wait. The longer you wait, the tougher it'll be to change things in your business. Put it in a positive way. The earlier you join and start participating, the better your runway will be and the faster your acceleration will be.
Yeah, one of the things, one of the leaders, Brad Scow, always says is, when he's out talking, people are like, well, I just need to get these couple of things figured out and then I'll join. And he said, what you don't realize is by joining, you're going to figure those things out a lot faster than what you would do by yourself.
Yeah, and there will always be a next couple of things I need to get done before I'm going to do this, right? The other thing I would say is I hear a lot of concern that I don't know that I have the sophistication to input the data. I don't know that, I don't know that there's this fear factor that I hear. And my response back is Evolve does an amazing job of onboarding new members, providing training. Service leadership personnel will help you get going on benchmarking. There's a lot of folks that'll help you in this process, and you'll have to do the legwork, but we can't do that. But the assistance and the help will be there. And don't be intimidated by what you perceive as the barrier to jumping in. There's so many resources available, and there's hundreds and hundreds of companies that have been in the same position. And once you get over the hump on that, life just gets a lot easier.
Yeah, exactly. And you said, Evolve and service leadership, even the members of the group that you're assigned to, typically there's somebody inside of that group will be like, oh yeah, I remember going through that exact same thing with figuring out how to do all this. Let me help you and tell you what we did. It's building those relationships with each other.
Yep, that's very much the case. The other question we get a lot is, do I have to be all in on ConnectWise's suite to participate? And the answer is, of course, we would love you to be all in on ConnectWise's suite as ConnectWise employees. And we're huge believers in the technology, but we recognize that there's companies out there that are not, or using different PSA tools, et cetera. And so the peer group communities are technically agnostic. Everything is set up in a way that anybody can participate. So we have a company that joined recently that has a home written PSA, and they're looking at maybe going a different direction, but we see it all. So you can certainly participate either way.
And I would kind of tag on to that, Peter. And there's a bunch of different peer groups also. You've got the Evolve, the principal groups. You've got the service leadership groups for owners or managers. Then below that, we have a bunch of different role-based groups too. So depending upon what you're looking for, we probably have a peer group that would fit for that. You just need to reach out and we can have those discussions.
Yeah, so those role-based groups I'm glad you mentioned that. Those are really interesting. Now, you guys have groups for service managers, for sales, for security, for COOs and CFOs.
Correct.
Am I missing any?
Nope, that's it.
Yeah,
Those
that's
5.
enough. I mean,
And we'll add more as our members and as the industry changes. I'm sure we'll add more, but those are really strong 5 role-based groups that we have inside of the peer groups.
Yeah, they're we provide a lot of content to those. We attend those meetings as well, and it's really fun seeing a very different view of the business when you go into those groups and seeing it from a standpoint of how the service manager views the world versus how the owner or president or CEO views it. And so our process is really designed to be complementary and be able to help throughout the entirety of the business.
Excellent.
So, Joddey, any final thoughts that you have? How should somebody go about getting more information?
Yeah, really, they can reach out to me, and it's JD Hicks, HICKS at connectwise.com. Or you can go to the ConnectWise website, Evolve, that page, and there's an application there you can fill out, and I'll reach out to them. And really, I love to talk to new members or prospects out there and just hear about their organizations. If you have questions, even if it's not the right time right now, because I understand, just as much as it's a budget number, it's also a time commitment. And we really want people to understand that. Don't come in this and think, well, I'll participate maybe 50% of the time. If you can't commit to the time and the effort, it's not a good time for you, and let's delay that. And so, but let's have a discussion regarding that and get a good understanding of what they could really mean for your organization.
And when you talk to them and have those discussions, is that where you really determine who's the best fit for Evolve versus service leadership versus?
That's correct. Yeah, we have those discussions.
Okay.
Yeah, and there's differences. Yeah, Peter brings that up. There are differences between the service leadership groups and the Evolve groups, and really through a dialogue and a kind of an interview process, we can figure out what's going to be at the end of the day. What I want to find out is, how am I able to help this MSP or this TSP, the VAR, whatever you want to term it, what's the best way to help them be successful and find the success that each of them are individually looking for.
Great. So reach out to you either through ConnectWise website or jhicks at connectwise.com.
JD Hicks. There is a J Hicks. He forwards them on, but it's not.
No, I want to make sure we get it right, Joddey. JD Hicks. Okay.
Correct.
Got it. Okay. Well, any final thoughts?
Just would love to have a discussion with people if they're interested in learning more. And again, remember, service leadership, they had the report that they just released. And again, I can't begin to explain how important this data is to help understand how to run your organization better and to understand the industry more.
Yeah, and just to stress, anybody who's a member of Evolve or service leadership peer groups gets a complimentary copy of the annual profitability report as part of their membership fee. So the membership fee is a tremendous bargain. If you look at what's included from service leadership benchmarking, Sleek, the online coaching tool, the profitability report, not to mention the meetings, the content provided at the meetings, and all of that. So you have to pay for your travel and your hotel, but not much else when it comes to being once you sign up for the peer groups. Okay, with that, thank you everybody for joining today. And if you have any questions on anything related to the peer group community through Evolve, go to the ConnectWise website and go to Evolve within there. If you have any questions on anything service leadership related, go to service-leadership.com and you'll find our website there, and we'll be able to reach out to us, and we're happy to jump on a call with you as well. And have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, Peter. Take care, everyone.
Take care.